Sayas, and today I'm with Margarita Bess, and we are going to present our final project for foreign language and education class from Dr. Sarah Smith. So, why don't we just start? Okay. So, for our final project, we decided to do a Qualtrics survey about perceptions on language transferability among adult bilinguals. The objectives for our presentation are to review language transferability and code switching, showcase the use of Qualtrics survey as a tool to measure language perceptions, and analyze bilingual adults' perceptions on language transferability before and after a possible treatment. So we're going to start with Jim Cummings' theory on common underlying proficiency. Just a quick review. As we know, ideas come from a common source in the iceberg. Individuals can function with two or more languages with relative ease, and cognitive functioning is fed by monolinguals or multilingual channels. Code switching and transferability. Code switching is defined as language switching that can occur within a meaningful sentence, utterance, or between utterances. It's directed by the language user, so it's spontaneous, it's also voluntary or induced by an external cue. And prior research has focused on identifying language switching as distinct from translation, and there's relatively not that much research about code switching transferability impacts in natural environments. So we decided to use translanguaging as a strategy to measure code switching. Translanguaging is the full use of bilingual linguistic research to make meaning of their multilingual world. It's also a social practice. Its culture, ethnicity, home language are valuable for class discussion and language learning. It's also a heteroglossic space because curriculum is connected to student experience and provide opportunities for multilingual application. And it's a form of translation. It's a natural two-way process to compose meaning and create multilingual text.
As for the survey administered through Qualtrics, the average time per student was just less than 9 minutes. The total questions were 17, and they consisted of multiple choice, proficiency sliders, agree, disagree, slide by side, and text highlights. This was a self-report, and it was submitted anonymously by the students. The format of the survey itself was both in English and in Spanish, and it was administered by the course instructor. There's 4 sections to this survey. The first one is the background information, and it contains the demographic, much like the LSBQ: age, highest degree of education, age of acquisition, context of acquisition, and proficiency. The second portion includes the perceptions of the students before the treatment, or the pre-perceptions on language transferability. The third section contains the treatment itself, translanguaging poem and content in cognates and language questions. And lastly is the section that has the perceptions after the treatment, or post-perception questions on language transferability. Sample population, it was 90% females. Age group 25 to 34 was the largest grouping. There were 21 adult bilingual learners. And the highest degree of education was bachelor's, 14% of them, some college, 57%, and high school, 29%. The language profile for the students, as self-reported, Spanish age of acquisition for all of them, 100% of them, was 0 to 5. Those are the ages that they acquired it, native speakers. Spanish context acquisition, school and home, 100%. Spanish proficiency level, self-rated, read 9.67, speak 9.71, write 9.24, and listen 9.76. As for English, the age of acquisition for English was 0 to 5, only 5%. Ages 6 to 15, 19%. And the largest group, ages 15 to 24, were 43%. And then over the age of 25 was 33%, or about a third of the class. The English context acquisition, 5% identified was home, school 62%, work was 14%, social settings 19%. As for the English proficiency level, contrast with the Spanish proficiency level on the left. Read is 7.62, speak 7.14, write 6.90, and listen 8.14.
In our second section, we try to give this participants some statements, and they will have to strongly agree, disagree, or strongly disagree. These are preperceptions. So we asked them if language should not be mixed. 14% and 29% of the students agree or strongly agree that languages should not be mixed. That's 43% of the participants. Are learn better when using only one language. 57% disagree, so they do believe that using both languages help them. I get confused when using two languages at the same time. 24% and 10% agree or strongly agree, and 62% of them disagree with these statements. So many of them believe that using two languages at the same time do not make them or confuse them. It is hard to transfer information from one language to another. 52% of the participants disagree, so it's relatively easy, according to them, to transfer information from one language to another. We give them, the participants, a translanguage poem. We chose this poem because it has both languages simultaneously. Some of the words are in Spanish, others in English. Some of them we cannot categorize them in either or they're both. Some sentences are fully in English, other ones are completely in Spanish, while others are in Spanish and English. We asked them in regards of the content, so we asked what is the poem's main idea: discrimination, communication, or justice. 52% of the participants got the main idea right, being discrimination. We asked the participants to transfer from English to Spanish, so we gave them an English word and we asked them what this word means in Spanish. So arbitrary, injusto, árbitro, autoritario. 47% shows the right answer, injusto. We did the same thing with refuse. What does the word refuse mean in Spanish? Rehusar, negar, o rebuscar. 61.9% of the participants got the right answer, that is negar. We also did this from Spanish to English. We asked the participants what does silencio means in English: silence, receding, or silvered. 100% of them got it right, being silence. We also asked them what does fronteras mean in English. ¿Qué significa la palabra frontera en inglés? Borders, front, or fort. And 100% got it right. 100% got fronteras, meaning borders.
Treatment highlights. So as you can see here is the poem that the students were given to analyze. They were asked to highlight in green the words that they understood and help them to create meaning. And then in red, the words that they did not understand and did not help create meaning. As you can see, some of these words happen to be cognates. The darker the block around the word, the more it was identified by the students. Vocabulary recognition. So here we have from left to right, most recognized to least recognized. And some of these words, you can see they're cognates, but then there was a small grouping of them that were kind of a controversy. For example, arbitrary and fear. So they were also recognized mostly helpful, but a small percent was unhelpful. And you can see here in the color differences, green and red. Cognates and transferability. A word is in two languages is with a common root usually fixed on three or more consonants or consonant blends is a cognate. Here, when we analyzed the words that were in the poem, almost a fourth of them happened to be cognates, either in English or in Spanish. Here I picked a sampling and I show them on the left English and on the right Spanish. Down the center is the number of students that recognize the words as such. Post-perception, the words in Spanish help me understand the poem. So you can see there's a change here where agree is 48%. Words in English that help me understand the poem, you have 48% as well for agree. I could not understand the poem and strongly disagree is 57%. I was able to transfer information from one language to the other while reading the poem, and this is a huge whooping 71% for strongly agree. So they were able to transfer.
So as we can see, there's some changes on perceptions after the treatment. We first asked them if it's hard to transfer information from one language to another, and 43% of them agree with this statement. After giving them the poem, we asked them again if they were able to transfer information from one language to the other while reading the poem, and 95% agree with this statement. Other observations that we encountered is that there were drastic changes in perception, especially in regards of transferability in the poem. Even though a lot of other participants agreed with the transferability at the beginning, we saw a lot of higher numbers when we asked the questions again. 23% of recognizable transfer words were cognates. So cognates help with transferability, as we already know. 52% of the students identified the poem's main idea. So even though the poem was in two different languages, participants were able to understand the idea of the poem, or most of them. And when participants self-report their reading proficiency, we had a median of 7.62, but 48 and 62% of the participants were able to transfer English to Spanish words when asked. The strengths and weaknesses that we encountered with this survey, on the strengths we have that it was easy to access, it was anonymous, the perceptions were measured twice, and participants enjoyed the poem. It also was provided through virtual environment that helped with the administration and data collection of the survey. The weakness, the poem was too easy. We think we should give them a harder poem or something more at their level. The time of day varied among groups. When we gave them the poem, it was at the end of the class, so we can see some, they were a bit exhausted by the end of the class when they did take the poem, the survey, sorry. And post-perception questions were about the poem, not necessarily specifically at language transferability, so we think that we should just revise those questions again. And the instructor and participants' relation could be a form of bias. The instructors know very well the students, so students maybe or maybe not, but they could present a form of bias just to when completing the survey. And as we know, this is a very special group of bilinguals, so they do not represent all the adult bilinguals, so we cannot generalize this data to the whole adult learning bilingual population. For future research, we would like to go more in depth in regards of executive function and transferability in natural environments. We will provide an LSBQ or switching survey. We will do a treatment similar to the one that we did in this survey. We then add a Stroop test to measure executive function, and we would also like to experiment with other populations like heritage speakers. We would like to thank you for being here with us, taking the time to look at our presentation. If you have any comments or feedback, please feel free to share your comments below. This is Carla Sayas and my friend Margarita. It's a pleasure seeing you today.